Welcome to the Culture War, fellow chummers. Hey there, everyone. And the name is Adam.
And I'm Imsit, and today we're going to be going over when Lord of the Rings went woke.
Yeah, here's the funny thing. So, there's a book that did a lot of interesting things to the setting. And some of the things they've done included making a female Nazgul. That's a real thing. That is a real thing. Um, They actually talk quite a bit about the Southron tribes, quite a bit. They add their own cultures and everything like that. And it introduces quite a few other figures. It's very stunning and brave, I should say.
And of course, this book, it was made in one of the wokest years ever, the current year of 1990.
Wait, what? Shit, this thing is still around when the Soviet Union was. Yeah, so
Yeah.
today we're going to look at Gorgoroth. And yes, that is a female Nazgul right there. There she is. You can see her boob armor.
And you can totally see the DEI chin she has.
That's actually a face mask, if I remember right.
Now the chin. Listen, all women in woke stuff have to have this particular chin. Some guys on the internet that keep talking about this for years and years have told me that.
But I believe the people you're seeing is I think the center guy is the Witch King. I don't quite know. They can you can tell the Nazgul actually by their helmets, except for the female one because it's kind of obvious. The This great piece of art was actually made by Angus McBride. He did a lot of art pieces for Middle Earth role playing, and this is going to be fun. I'm going to show you some very hilarious fan fiction. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the people and cultures because, yes, they actually try to go into detail about orc cultures, just like Rings of Power. They talk
How
about the men of Mordor, and they have dwarves and elves working for Sauron. Yes, elves. You know, the ones that were described as being basically impossible to corrupt.
And you know what I can't believe this. Ice.
Ignore Eol and his son Maeglin.
Other thing, I can't believe ICE did this. Our own federal government. Before it was even actually,
I think the initial stuff was set up for it, but it wasn't until Clinton I think it
yeah.
really became a thing.
Of course Clinton started that.
I wouldn't
Of
know.
course.
This is just me shooting off the hip. Do not take what I just said as fact.
I
Okay.
mean, that's more accountability than most anti-woke channels.
Yeah. For all I know, I might have just actually said fake news, so keep that in mind. Speaking of fake news, politics and power, we got to talk about the hierarchy, the cathedral, as the Mises Caucus might talk about.
Oh, they have a hierarchy? Of course they make the evil villains have a hierarchy. Do they put lobsters in it as well?
They have the orc tribes, the orc confederations, and the war hosts. So just like modern era, they have equated the orcs with another race of humans by comparing them. Clearly, the Native Americans, as it used to be.
Yeah, the Iroquois Confederacy.
They talk about battlefields tactics. That's fine. People of note: Sauron. By the way, they retconned his name in it, and it's going to be funny. They actually go through all 9 Nazgul, and some of them were done pretty fucking dirty.
But bear in mind, like for this Games Workshop, even for like the War, not the War of the Ring, the Shadow of War stuff. Remember, there were only two Nazgul named: the
Well,
Witch
yeah,
King and Camul the Easterling, and I think the Camul part was only in the appendix.
it was Kamul the Black Easterling and the Witch King of Angmar. The others were not named, depending on what source. These were some of the earliest attempts to give the Nazgul other Nazgul things to do. Some of them are going to be okay. Some of them are going to be very questionable. I mean, all of it is because you're basically working on stuff that Tolkien he definitely thought about, but in terms of notes, he really only focused on 2 of them. because by this point they're shards of the will of Sauron. They basically have no free will of their own. Other lords of Mordor, which include such hit characters as the Mouth of Sauron, Gothmog, someone named Celadring, the Anguilion, and Bolvag. I don't know what those last three are, but they're probably canon, I guess. Seems legit. And last but not least, we'll wrap up with Shelob and Gollum. I don't know if they made Shelob a woman in this one. They might have. I know
They
Shadow
turned
of Mordor
Shelob
did.
into a woman?
I know Shadow of Mordor
Oh,
did that.
come on. It's a spider. Spiders don't have a gender.
Last daughter of Ungoliant, just as a reminder. So we're going to kind of skip through the book for a good portion of it since it's neat to know, but this is a
But we're
lot of blah blah.
but we're talking about how woke it is.
Yeah, we're
And the
specifically
only
talking
reason
about how woke it is. We're not talking about things like the Angus Whaley, which is like some type of gecko thing eating a bug, or the ash drake. They're spiders. Ah, here we go. People and cultures. Due to the severe environment in Gorgoroth, the Mordorians live predominantly in Nirn, with a scattering of herdsmen in the plains immediately east of the Blackland and a few nomadic tribes just south of the Efel Duath. That's the southern Mordor mountains. The only race truly indigenous to the barren plateau are the orcs. Mountain warrens, supplemented by Sauron's fortifications, have housed their kind in Gorgoroth ever since Morgoth's first tampering created the orcs from the elvish race. Yet men, elves, dwarves, and trolls have entered the volcanic plain to clash in the mighty wars fought within the mountain walls. And Sauron's armies, both Mannish and Orcish, occupy the citadels.
wait, who's Morgoth?
Hmm.
I he wasn't in the movies. I mean, I would know. I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings. I've only seen the movies once, so I would know this. And there's nothing about Morgoth in those films.
Well, I mean, he was mentioned in Rings of Power, the great foe. Not even kidding. In Rings of Power, Morgoth was mentioned. He is mostly just described as the great foe because the copyright and knowledge of the character is specifically a Silmarillion thing. He's kind of the He's kind of like the Super Satan compared to Sauron's Satan.
They have two devils.
Yeah, he's the
Two.
Super Satan.
How anti-Christian can they get? Next, you're going to tell me that there's no actual Christian God in this setting.
There actually is.
Oh, they should have mentioned it in the movies. Where was the church?
He is the servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor. Secret fire refers to the flame of creation as given by the one Eru Iluvatar.
I told you I only saw the movie once, though I am a die-hard Lord of the Rings fan.
Super Satan too. Yeah, that's a good way to describe Morgoth. Fun fact: in the movies, Sauron is actually designed off of Morgoth. The only thing that's missing are Morgoth had 3 gems in his helmet that represented the Silmarils.
But let's see what they do now about the orcs. And I gotta say, the first thing I find odd, they're now putting Star Wars in this. The orcs lived on Endor?
Ah, that's another term for Middle Earth. Actually, it refers to the planet. Another term for it can also be Endor is like Middle Earth itself, and then the world is called Arda. Better be an amusing book. Oh, it will get hilarious as fuck when we cover
They
the
are
Nazgul.
exceedingly violent, disgusting, crude, cruel, obnoxious, self-indulgent, and evil.
Hey, I've known
They
some excellent
respect.
Nahuatl people. Why are you talking about? Oh wait,
Oh,
wait. Oh,
uh,
oh, they're
they
not supposed to be people.
they respect nothing but raw power, based as all masculine men should be. I don't know why then they're comparing that to these orcs and they're saying that these are negative attributes. I mean, come on, like a guy like Andrew Tate, there's no negative qualities to him.
Wait, Andrew Tate's a cannibal? Living within a
Well,
cannibalistic tribal society.
well, that depends on what you mean by eating somebody. Get it? Get it? Get it? He sexually traffics people.
Oh, oh. They're universally loathed by all the peoples of Middle-earth, including themselves, and they constantly fight with each other. They were nearly wiped out by the last alliance of men and elves, so, uh, you could argue that's based. The remnants of the Scourge sought refuge deep within the mountains.
They're from height of 3 to 5 feet, resembling blackened and scarred half apes. I thought they were. Wait, no, I thought D&D said they were like pigs and Mexicans.
Yeah, I don't know why the hell they're trying to spool the orcs in D&D to that, but no,
I
orcs
say,
in the original were malicious and had nothing to do with people,
I
other than
say,
arguably being unawakened humans, maybe infested with like lesser spirits or something. There's a lot of creation legends for the orcs in Tolkien's Legendarium.
their skins range from a light brown to black, with albinism an extremely rare trait. But again, there's no talk about perhaps like some of them being more reddish skinned. And what about the fact they should all have British accents?
Well, I mean, they also have glowing demonic eyes.
No such thing as an odor-free orc.
They also like tattoos.
Yeah. Bred as creatures of darkness, they share certain traits with all other evil beings. Um, they actually do experience some form of issue when experiencing sunlight.
So, funny about this is that technically this is actually not correct. Like in the lore, like in the actual Lord of the Rings lore, they're overemphasizing the orc's weakness to sunlight. It's more of an instinctual fear, and the sun tends to drive them somewhat nauseous, yeah, but it's more like they're drunk.
Oh,
Like,
so like me.
yeah, they tend to get sun drunk. They don't really like it. It causes them anxiety. If their head gets fuzzy, they
I
don't
mean,
really like it.
unlike them,
Their
I'm knee
skin
deep.
can burn. Like if they live, their skin can burn, but it's like rare.
I mean, unlike them, instead of fighting for Sauron, I am knee deep in the culture war, making various offensive memes on Twitter and sharing them with other people.
Also, the Uruk-hai, Sauron's breeding project within the depths of Mordor, gave rise to the Uruk-hai. They're
Wait,
larger
wait,
than.
wait, 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 wait. No, no, I remember the movie. It was that white-haired guy.
Yeah, yeah.
You're mixing up
Christopher
the
Lee,
name.
the Dread Wizard, Christopher Lee.
Exactly. No, Count Dooku. I remember.
Yeah, Count Dooku. Count Dooku, Lord of Serrano, created the Uruk-hai. He was told by Palpatine to build an army worthy of the Senate.
Yeah, I remember that.
But in actuality, yes, Sauron himself also made Uruk-hai. They're usually just called Uruks so that you don't get confused because the Mordor versions are they're a little different. Not quite. Like
The,
there's similarities, but they're different too.
though they are apparently able to ignore the retarding effects of the sun.
Oh yeah, it's because of Sauron experimented by introducing Manish blood to kind of improve the qualities of the orcs. He basically did a breeding program. Oh, the sun does petrify other creatures. The trolls. Trolls, since they're made in mockery of Ents, they turn to stone when exposed to sunlight. There is one exception, which they might talk about. We'll see. They do mention trolls quite a bit.
Though they do say they are born of hate and jealousy, and their personality reflects these traits in abundance. Worst qualities of murderers, rabid wolverines, famished hobbits, and hyperactive jackrabbits. A frequently heard Orcish proverb can be loosely translated to "I don't feel like it." Forms the basis of the Orcish attitude towards life. Ah, so the Northern Englishman.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're going on. Oh, hey, they actually used the Elvish spelling of orc. Yerk. I'm actually a bit surprised by that. That's nice.
There is no form of Orcish recreation, with the exception of torturing others.
Well, that's not
Is
true.
it no?
That's actually not quite true. They very much enjoy building things that cause explosions and suffering. They don't just torture, they like to build torture devices too.
Ah, so they're industrious people.
They can be. They usually just prefer getting slaves to do it because it's easier.
Let's see. Mating in orc society consists of solely brutal breeding techniques inflicted by the strongest of orcs. Males tend to dominate, although occasional females hold some sway over whom they breed. Now that's just offensive. Are you telling me that all of them are evil and all of them do this?
That's actually one of the biggest conundrums Tolkien ever had when he wrote orcs, because he never liked the concept of a being with a soul being straight up evil. Even Sauron originally wasn't evil. It was a combination. It was a combination of choice and the pursuit of power that led them to their ruination. So that's why one of his orc creation myths is actually that they are lesser spirits, basically infused into animals. Like Morgoth made them in mockery of elves, he didn't mutilate elves, and that they're more bestial and animal-like, which is why whenever there's no Dark Lord, they tend to fall apart into infighting. At least that's one alternative. The other is because of what Morgoth did and the pact that the forebears of the orcs kind of had to commit to. It ultimately cursed them with, well, damnation through the line. And that orcs can hypothetically be redeemed because they do have a soul. They were given part of the imperishable fire. But because of nature, their inclinations, combined with the culture they're around in, they have no chance to ever rise above that.
But I do like that the orcs here they fit the traditional societal roles that we should all belong to. Female orcs raise the young and frequently feed upon the weak and deformed. The survivors remain under female supervision until they are fit to be abused by the males. And this brutal rearing roots out the weak and unfit youngsters who would not survive in orc society. We should be adopting those standards.
Originally a little booklet called A Modest Proposal that actually came up with that. Jonathan Swift wrote it. He figured it was a great solution to the overpopulation and food shortage issue.
Oh, was that a book?
It was actually a request to the government. It was made by the guy who wrote Gulliver's Travels, a real travelogue about a guy who went around the world.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't like to read. It's for queers. But again, as I say, I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings.
They also get this right. Orcs are exceptional craftsmen. That's the thing. Orcs, the movies do have a habit of overselling how kind of slapshod their stuff is, but orcs, when they have to, can be good craftsmen. They just tend to be too impatient to really do it.
It's the grind set.
Yeah, they usually just have slaves do it.
Exactly. Again, another thing we should be embodying. Another good trope.
It is also said that orcs invented gunpowder, and they they would eventually use it in great weapons of destruction.
I but we didn't see any guns in the movies. They should have
Uh,
had AR-15s.
hey, remember that one orc that was running, and they were trying to shoot him, and then he just kept no-selling the arrows, and then he jumped in the hole and it exploded.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's gunpowder.
But why isn't a gun?
I don't know.
Well, let's moving on then though, because my head's now starting to hurt from thinking too much. Religion. Darkness and power are the foundation of all Orcish religion. Their focus is on Morgoth.
Um,
Reverence
this is actually a reasonable fan take. I imagine Tolkien himself would have shat all over it, but it does make sense if you think about it. He is their creator that they fear and hate.
and the ceremonies would revolve around sacrifice
Makes sense.
and yep.
This is
And in the
actually an extrapolation of what of there's a cult that actually happens in the book that basically does venerate Morgoth. This is just transplanting it and explaining this is what the orcs do.
Let's see. And in the Fourth Age, worship degenerated into bizarre rituals dealing with an evil but unnamed figurehead. Morgoth in exile? Oh, hold on. Are they now desecrating his work by proposing a sequel?
I think he wrote about 13 pages before he said, I don't like where it's going, and then he canned it.
Well, as I said, I don't like to read, so good.
Yeah, Tolkien looked at it and said, nah, this is crap. And anyway, during the Second and Third Age, Sauron enforced Orcish worship as a method to keep his armies in control and his own ego satiated. That sounds like something Sauron would do.
Their social structure is determined by size and power of a given individual.
Huh, I thought that was a Warhammer thing.
Yeah, that's war. They're stealing from Warhammer.
Well,
I can't believe Tolkien stole from Warhammer. They should sue.
I mean, I can see it. I can see it. There are like a couple of fights that didn't make it into the movies. You see some of it in the extended cuts, but there's a couple
Wait, they made
fights.
another version?
Yeah, the extended cuts. I
The
mean,
what?
you get to see Saruman die.
He
Grimace
died?
stabs him in the back, and he falls off his tower like 1,000 feet. Lands on a watermill.
Ah, damn, I gotta go see these movies a second time.
Then Legolas shoots Grima in the chest, and he falls over too. It's pretty great.
Oh, and let's see. Uh, Females are commonly regarded as slaves, with their primary function being as imp bearers. All right. All right, that's some proper behavior there. In the rare case they gain positions of personal power, even rarer gain the leadership of a tribe? I guess it makes the Orcus version of law is translated as if you can get away with it, do it. If you can't, do it anyway. And if it would prove painful, do it.
If you lose an item, you don't deserve it. They have their own sense of justice, aka vengeance, with the more powerful orcs bullying their lesser brethren. Okay, that sounds a lot more like the books. Basically, it's not quite by a size. It's kind of if you can get them into line either through fear or through beating the shit out of them.
Let's see. Their strategy in war is simply kill them all.
That sounds about
Ambush is
right.
an improvisation. When they're directed by a focused will, they become the deadliest on Middle Earth. They like to use scimitars, daggers, short bows, axes. Spears are not uncommon. They're rare otherwise. Morningstar is a status symbol.
Also, yes, Tolkien killed the sequel because he saw what it was turning into. He basically wrote a Song of Ice and Fire and said, "Yeah, this is shit," and then he stopped.
Oh man, but we could have had tits like Game of Thrones did.
Or Rome.
That
HBO's
was a
Rome
movie?
also had a lot of tits.
The Men of Mordor.
Er,
Great, now we get to talk about the real important people in the setting. Men.
So yeah, there are men in Mordor. They mostly live around the Sea of Nirn, also known as the Bitter Sea. Um,
The the Nernigs, the
the
Nuregs.
Nirniags. This is kind of fan fictiony, their name, but yes, there were men around the Sea of Nirn. They usually were farmers. Canonically, when Sauron loses, Aragorn actually allows them to continue to farm around the Sea of Nirn.
Oh wait, now I see why these guys are evil. Few possess a pure racial heritage. I
So
that's
yes,
that's a problem.
the Nirniags, at least in this setting, the concept is that they are the descendants of human slaves that the orcs under Sauron essentially forced to work around the sea. And because of that, they have a lot of blending of, well, where they're from. There's Harad blood, there's Easterling blood, there's even some Númenórean blood in there.
As I see, black Numenorians?
Yeah, black
Oh,
Númenóreans, they're a thing.
come on! They had to put DEI hires in this setting.
Well, I mean, come on, there's Tar Miriel from Rings of Power. She was black, kind of.
I listen. I've only seen what other people's videos on Rings of Power have been, I have no idea what goes on. All I know is there are non-white people in it and women, and that's a problem.
Uh, but yes, in
As we
actuality,
all as we all as we all know, no one involved in any of the fighting in Lord of the Rings were women.
no man can defeat me. I am no man.
But that was a man. They wouldn't allow a woman in the army. They had a hobbit with them. That's why they won.
So
A
Mary cut
male
it.
hobbit.
So Mary cutting the Witch King's ankle is what killed him.
It was on a delay.
He had a delayed death. Bugged death mechanics. Wow. Nothing I could do. Nothing I could do.
And let's see.
But yes, Black Numenorians are a thing. They are descendants of a faction known as the Kingsmen. Some of them actually willingly stayed with Sauron. They also mention, do they mention? Yeah, the Corsairs. Corsairs are also related to the Black Numenorians. They're usually a little more admixed. As for some of the other cultures they mentioned, like the Gathmarigs, Kirikiani, Aldriags, that crap's all made up. Basically, they're all like a bunch of tribes, I think, for the Easterlings. Yeah, the
Uh,
Witch King bled to death. His
Blood.
invisible ghost body bled blood. You made him bleed his own blood, Mary, and now he died. Do you want to know why he had the ring? It's because he
He
was a
slimed.
hemophiliac.
He slimed me.
He was a hemophiliac, so that's why he wanted the ring. He was terrified of like getting a fucking paper cut and dropping dead.
Let's see. Next up are the trolls.
Yep, the Olog.
Made in mockery of the Ents.
Yep, Onodrim. That is the Elvish
Yeah.
Sindarin word for elves. Not
And
elves,
many a
Ents. Whoops.
yeah, many a Torag is more than little more than a crazed, mindless beast intent only on killing.
Remember this cave troll that they took like 8 minutes to kill?
Yeah, it
That
was
is a
cool.
troll. That is one of many species of troll.
I know. How'd they get the other ones up there?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if I remember right, one of the Nazgul made it so that the sun couldn't come out, so that's why they didn't turn to stone.
Oh, that's awesome. I love those Nazgul.
Yeah, and we're going to learn all 9 of them. Yes,
Yeah.
only 2 of them had names, but we're going to learn about all 9, and it's going to be great. I cannot
And,
wait to talk
and
to you
another
about Kamul's evil
and
elf stepmommy.
and another great thing. Females are thought to be rare. Finally, no women.
That's not unsurprising because the Ents also did not have a lot of Ent wives before Sauron burned them all. He actually went on an incel rampage through
Yeah,
the Ent
that
wives'
means
gardens and killed them all.
most trolls are incels, man.
Sauron himself legitimately went on a murder quest. He went full chud. He went full fucking chud and just murdered all of the Ent wives and burned down their gardens.
Then we have the Oleg High
Olog High, they are improved trolls.
and half trolls.
They're also sometimes called that because it's thought Sauron might have actually thrown in some other like a little bit of
Elf,
man blood, elf blood
yeah,
maybe.
elf, Uruk, half troll, and the other races of Mordor, the dwarves.
Oh yeah, this one's kind of funny because this is based on one line of dialogue from The Hobbit. It is said that more wicked dwarves would make deals with the orcs, but none of Durin's folk ever did. I don't remember which of the dwarven clans Bavor's people are, but one of the cool things that the Middle Earth role playing game does is they actually cover all of the other clan dwarves, the clan fathers of the dwarves.
They have a horrible appearance. Their hair and fingernails are as black as pitch, their eyes burning with a faint reddish glow. Their faces have hardened, becoming very angular and grayish in hue.
I feel like this is just them stealing the Dwerger and just kind of putting them in the game. I kind of don't like this.
And then we have the elves.
So yeah, there's a few. There have been occasionally elves that were more malevolent. There was Aol, the dark elf, and then there was his son Meglin, who betrayed the entire city of Gondolin because he wanted to smash. He literally did it for the nookie. Hey, Ultra Mega Satan, can you destroy this city so I could date this girl that doesn't love me?
Hey, man's going hardcore. Gotta love that.
But yeah, there's a couple of elves that they have done. His corrupted servants are drawn from all the Quendi except for the Vanyar. That is not unsurprising because the Vanyar are all in Amon, Valinor. I would actually be really impressed if Sauron had a corrupted Vanyar. He might have had a minion though. Not minion. Minion is a Judaic thing. I think they're called Minyar because there's the Minyar, Nelyar, Tatyar, and Nelyar. Those are like the original three tribes of elves. That would be impressive though.
Moving on then to the politics and power section. At the top of the hierarchy, as always, is the best guy, Sauron.
Yep,
He
he's
got there
also known
through.
as Lord of the Rings and Lord of this world.
He's a ring maker. He knows how to use his hands. It's a good thing. I like that.
He also knows how to burn people to death with his hands. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's the thing the movies don't tell you is because he's like a fallen angel basically. He can put his power out in the form of like being a spirit of fire. That is stuff that they have shown in the books that he would like basically burn people to death just by being near them, since he is a
Wait, so
spirit
he's
of fire.
wait, so he's like a demon?
He's a fallen angel, yes.
Bro, bro. What if Doom Guy was in Lord of the Rings?
He would rip and tear throughout Mordor until it's done, and I think it'd be a really fun game.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
actually would be a really fun shit post of a game. I actually would love to see that as a mod. I think you could do some pretty fun wads out of that.
yeah.
The
Then we have
Orcish
the
Olympics always start with a recreation of what one orc sacrificed to bring down the walls of Helm's Deep. The fireworks display after is quite the sight to behold. I'm just envisioning the orc version of the Olympics where they all cheat by trying to kill the other competitors. By the end of it, there's like none of them left, so Sauron's just like there, bored. He kind of just throws a half melted golden medal on the nearest corpse, saying, "Good job." Yeah, Sauron was legitimately. We'll get into him. We actually talk about Sauron too, and I have things to complain about in this book about how they depict Sauron.
so we then have the Lords of Mordor, the worshippers of evil, the masters of the black arts.
So yes, fun fact: one of Sauron's many names among the Númenóreans was known as Zigur, which is the Great Wizard. He could teach black arts to people who are interested in him.
And then finally we have the commanders of the host.
These would be like your orc commanders or occasionally troll commanders.
And here we go with the orc tribes, the politics of war.
Oh, I just realized they're making the orc tribes based on the tribes of Israel. Okay, I get it now.
Wait, what?
Think about it. There's the
They're
tribes.
Jews?
Maybe. Think
Oh,
about that. They're
what?
described as horrifying monsters that eat children. I mean,
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I remember being on poll once, and now I know everything about the Jewish people.
look, I'm being racially sensitive. I'm not accidentally comparing a horrifying monster to a real life ethnicity because I myself, on some level, think of it as that way. Oh God. But yeah, they have a bunch of tribes. They kind of describe a little bit of them. This is just to give you a little bit of flavor if you ever want to play as an orc, because in Middle Earth role playing, you can choose to play among the bad guys.
Yeah. The Scarahai, the shape-changing inhabitants of Durthing. The orcs of the Green Claw can assume the forms of large wolves.
Ah,
Wait,
the reason they can do this is actually because of one of the Nazgul, who is known as the chief commander of the werewolves.
there are werewolves in this setting?
There were. In fact, the wargs that the orcs ride are their descendants. They don't have as much power as the original werewolves, but they still exist. He could, yeah, Sauron could teach you about things like makeup, astrology, gems, sacrificing people so that you can use their powers to do rituals, artificially extend your life using dark means, things like that.
Those all sound great. Why would
Bind the
anybody
souls
be
of the
against
dead
him?
so that you can use them for your own purposes. Your average black magic.
Yeah,
Also, Durthang is a real fort. I believe Tolkien actually did describe. Actually, I don't know. No, it
north
might
of
it might have been, but basically, there's a lot of fortresses that are along the Mordor walls. Some of them were built by Sauron, some of them were built by Gondor, but then were repurposed by the orcs.
the Skuga Strigs, the Shadows of War. So they're ripping off the video game again. Next, I guarantee. Next, what? They're gonna put an improbable Haradrim within the forces of Gondor.
Oh my God, there's a tribe of orcs whose whole thing is just throwing people into volcanoes. That's awesome. The Snagagarash, they're the slaves of fire. That's awesome. That's hilarious. Sauron could turn into a wolf, right? Yeah, he can. At least he used to. That's before he got drowned. Yeah, Sauron has had his body destroyed a couple of times.
But he always comes back because he's based.
Yeah, he's like William Afton from Five Nights at Freddy. He always comes back.
Now we, but now we have the Orcish confederations.
So
That
the concept
they
of this is that this is I think part. Oh, I kind of like this because while it's not, this is complete fan fiction. The concept is neat. Sauron doesn't want anyone to know he's still alive or like he's regaining power. So he comes up with the idea of having these orc tribes under his command form temporary confederations to fuck with people.
wait. The half troll Girthlug forced the two tribes to cooperate, creating confederation towards war on their mutual Orcish foes. Osterigoth was her headquarters.
That can sometimes
Oh,
happen.
there we go again. This is feminism in action.
Sauron's just the lame William Afton. You heard it here, folks. I mean, here's the difference. Sauron don't need to murder no children to be immortal.
I'm so, did USAID fund this thing? I've been told that that $40 billion industry is in charge of everything in the world.
No,
So,
USA had funded the NFL. That's why the moment it got cut, the Chiefs lost.
oh yeah, yeah,
Get
makes
dunked
sense.
on, Mahomes. That's what you get. You're never going to be you're
But I
never
thought
going to
these
be
orcs,
Brady.
but I thought these orcs only go with the strongest and the tallest. Why would they agree with a female half troll?
Probably because she's like 10 feet tall and can rip them in half.
But she wouldn't have the upper body strength.
She's 10 foot tall and a troll. I can assure you, she has the body strength.
Oh wait, she'd be a muscle mummy then? Great, my fetish. Never mind.
Oh, now this is some amazing fan fiction. The half troll Bjorning monstrosity, Erotical. That's awesome. They decided, fuck it, let's just apply templates. Let's add a half troll. Let's give him shape changing abilities. This is great. This is fucking insane.
Isn't that what they do in D&D? It should perfectly be fine for this.
Yeah, that's something I will say out of character. I've noticed that Ice has a bad habit of borrowing heavily from AD&D, at least when they feel like they can get away with it. You most notice it in occasional bits like how they handle the evil dwarves looking like the Dwerger, and you'll see that with how they handle dark elves.
So, blah, blah, they got a bunch of tribes together to unite as confederations. I don't know what these two people are. It looks like there's a weird spotted horse and a dark horse and a. I think this guy's from like a fantasy setting. This guy looks like he's from a Native American setting. I don't know.
It's funny because these are supposed to be Variag horsemen, which are one of the more they're more based on stuff like the Avars and Bulgars, like early Turkic raiders. They're
But then
basically proto-Turks.
we have the war hosts, the hordes of Gorgoroth, n- numbering 90,000 orcs, 35,000 men, and 1,000 trolls.
1,000 trolls is something that would make most people shit their pants. I'm going to be blunt. Do you want to know why? Because it only took like a couple hundred Ents to absolutely fucking demolish Isengard. It did.
But think about the memeage that you could have with 1,000 trolls. Pure cack.
I would honestly fucking shit my pants in fear if something like that was a. Also, that's an army of over 100,000. Which, don't get me wrong, Mordor can shit out armies like that. That's just holy shit.
Yeah, but can they even be as fast as the Wehrmacht, though? I'm told they were based.
The
They
Wehrmacht,
had those tanks and shit.
the
They were
Wehrmacht,
fast.
the Wehrmacht were the big thing they did was they took meth.
Yeah,
They took
the
meth.
drug of
They
champions.
would stay up for 3 days, then crash.
Just gotta build up that tolerance.
So then there's the Host of Nirn, which is essentially a reserve after the Host of Gorgoroth. It's more man-inspired. As for strategy and tactics, they do have them.
Yeah, just run up and kill things.
It's the best strategy if you're using orcs.
I mean, listen, I've tried to play some strategy games, and that seems to work. I mean, I don't tell anybody I play it on easy, but that seems to work.
So the common roles of orcish task forces are usually to be annoyances, uh, meat wall, or just to do your standard your standard RRP, raise, rape, and pillage.
Ah, the Viking strategy, like my ancestors.
They also mention the wolf cavalry, which are wargs. I wonder if they're going to talk about they have these like giant woolly mammoth monster things that they used for pack animals.
The elephant guys?
No, not Oliphants. There's like another thing. They're not the fell beasts. There's like this other thing. The great beasts, I believe they're called.
Ah,
They look kind of like rhinoceri, sort of.
and they say the Urukai are much more disciplined, an elite force.
Yeah, they are. They just basically because Sauron wanted to prove he was a better Dark Lord than Morgoth. He wanted a better source of infantry because, well, orcs really don't stand up well compared to humans usually. Like in a
Yeah, they then
1v1, an orc will
yeah
lose most of the time.
they then break down like the various tribes and how they operate.
Yes, they actually go into a field, an order of tables. Here they are.
Sizable mounted contingent, lack of heavy cavalry, the Haradin Mumak cavalry ID for line breaking. Those are the big beasts, right? The
Those are the
elephants?
Oliphants. Yeah.
I said no, they're elephants.
Is there any villains worth fighting after Sauron was destroyed for the last time and before Morgoth's prophecy had returned? Um, if you're willing to play around with the 13 pages that Tolkien wrote, there is what's known as the New Shadow, where after Aragorn's son dies, the realm of Gondor splits, and one of the halves basically falls into Morgoth worship again.
Communists.
Essentially, what happened is that his grandchildren, one of them essentially becomes the puppet of a new age cult that loosely is tied around Morgoth worship again, or Sauron worship, and it's
What's that?
mostly people that were embittered by some of the situations, like some of the realm was like Mordor. Nirn, for example, I believe joins the new Shadow. Other parts do. Harad basically rebels. Like there's stuff you
What's that?
can do.
Yeah. What's that phrase again? Like strong men build strong times build weak men build weak times build strong men. that whole cyclical thing.
Well, it was also because Tolkien believed that you're never really going to be able to truly and purely defeat evil. It will always come back. Sauron may be less than a spirit, but evil will just find a new avatar, essentially.
As I said, communism. After Sauron came communism.
They also come up with like titles for commands like the Genon, Urdnuk, Afukaush, which is attempting to build more on black speech. Which, fun fact, Tolkien actually really hated writing anything in black speech.
Black speech.
It's specifically because he thought it sounded overtly harsh. It also
Yeah.
may have been based on Hurrian, which is one of the old. It's an ancient language that you would have seen in the Bronze Age. It has a lot of elements like that. Shelob was injured and basically never seen after Sam fucked her up.
Yeah, that's what you get, hussy.
Uh, Here we go. People of note. Here we go. Here we go. We're starting with the OG,
All right.
the original Satan
Sauron.
that people most know, not Super Satan. The single
Servant
most powerful
of
figure in Endor.
servant of Aili.
Aul.
Well,
By the way, this is wrong. Sauron never had the name Alundil. He was originally called Mehron, which meant the fair one.
they're changing his name.
They changed his name. I think it's because they did not read the Silmarillion. Or
I
if they
mean, I
did,
didn't.
they forgot.
I
Or
mean,
maybe
listen,
they
I
didn't
didn't
have the
either.
right.
I didn't either, and I know that.
Maybe they didn't have the rights. That is a thing. You have to basically ask permission from the estate. That could be why they might not have had some. Because when you don't have permissions, you usually have to do some really weird, fucky things. A great example of that is in the hit flop Black Panther 2, where they changed Namor the Avenging Son to Namor, the one with no love. They couldn't use the Avenging Son because they didn't have the rights to Namor. They had to change it up.
Oh, that's why he was a Mexican?
Yeah, they couldn't use the original Namor. That's why they made him Namor.
I mean, it's not like Disney would have actually done the right thing and made him into a white man,
I mean,
like
it's
he's
not like
supposed to
Disney
be.
wouldn't have done that anyway, but if they had the rights, they would have probably just called him Namor and have it be Avenging Son.
It's not like they probably put him where he should have been in Europe, right? That's where he would. He's a white guy.
I
That's
think
where he should
Atlantis
be.
is like actually off the coast of New York City. It's like halfway between New York City and Europe.
Oh God, he's a New Yorker.
I mean, he spent time in a New York homeless shelter. But
He was
yeah,
homeless.
Aulendil, aka Mehron, he was one of Aul's more impressive students. The only other one is a guy by the name of Kurumo, who you would know as Count Dooku.
Yeah,
Kurumo
he was
eventually
awesome.
takes the guise of Sir Christopher Lee, and becomes Count Dooku. But what happens is Sauron has a desire to make the world orderly. To him, there was a
Wait, that's a
beautiful aspect to the world that he saw during creation, and it was the structured law. It was the structured of all things. He loved seeing it in perfect harmony. The problem is living beings do not necessarily have that ability to see that order, and they might resist that order, so to speak. They would do
yeah.
things that would confuse and horrify him. And eventually, he becomes a big fan of this guy. His name was Melkor, because of his ability to enact his will on things, basically make things happen. So that is why Mehron, not Elendil, his name's Mehron, joins Morgoth and becomes known as Gorthar the Abhorred, eventually Sauron. Also, yes, a lot of Lord of the Rings characters have alternate names. For example, Galadriel also has the name Artanis, which means man elf, which means like
Wait,
man. Because she,
Galadriel's a man?
well, it's more because she's like 6 feet fucking tall. She's like 6'3" or something. She is huge.
They made her trans? Oh no! I've done things to images of her.
Well, I mean, why? Remember, 3 rings for elven kings under the sky.
Oh no! Oh no! Wait a minute. No, it was as a woman, so no, I'm straight. I'm still straight.
That's
Let's
the
go on.
thing.
Let's
The
keep
elven
talking
kings
about
under the
men.
sky, and that'll actually be the reasoning behind one of the Nazgul.
Let's keep going on talking about men.
So Sauron became essentially Morgoth's chief enforcer. He was the lord. He originally was the lord of Angband when he built his original fortress of hell called Autumno, also known as Udun. Then Morgoth came, took Angband, and made him I believe he was the lord of the Forest of Terror, or the Isle of Dread. I forget the name. But he also became the chief commander of the vampires and werewolves because vampires are also a thing.
Where were they in the movies?
You mostly see their descendants in the Hobbit
Wait,
movie,
wait,
the
wait. No,
gloating
I
of the
know.
Five
Wait,
Pages.
wait. I know. He's Count Dooku.
Actually, no. If you've ever seen the Hobbit movies, the bats that you see that Legolas surfs on to kill like
But
100 orcs.
but Count Dooku played as Dracula, so he should be a Dracula in this movie.
I mean, maybe Saruman drank blood. I don't know. I know he made his own ring of power.
Let's see.
But what
So
happens is he becomes Lord of the Isle of Dread, Tolan Garhoth. Oh, the Isle of Werewolves. I'm an
yeah,
idiot. He gets his
yet
ass kicked by a dog, and then
who?
after that, the Valar come, beat the fucking shit out of Morgoth, take him back, throw him into the pit, and he grovels like, please
What a
show
pussy!
mercy,
What a
please.
bitch!
I want to be good. And then as
Stand
soon
up for yourself, man.
well, then what happened was when they told him to come over to Amon to get judged, he said, "I ain't getting judged for that shit." He didn't want to face the consequences, so he ran away to the east.
Good. Fleeing like my man Andrew Tate.
Yeah, standard Ralph Mail protocol.
Or like any good crypto scammer.
Yeah, no, he pulled a Ralph Mail protocol. He escaped to the nearest country. Speaking of which, since
Morgoth told me I could betray Iluvatar.
well, I mean, you're joking, but remember the time where he was a Satanist, or at least was friends with a Satanist? Hail Morgoth! Speaking of which, you know that the Chiefs getting destroyed fucking got into his head.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're curious, Ethan Ralph is a big Chiefs fan. Meanwhile, I'm dancing, even though I'm unfortunately tied to that other guy that was infamous for his cupcakes. Fuck, man. I mean, hey, it's the Eagles fans. On average, Eagles fans be like that. They'll burn their own city down in celebration. They once threw snowballs at Santa with rocks in them.
Well, Santa must have done something.
I think it was because they got their asses kicked by the Cowboys. Because there used to be a big rivalry with the Cowboys originally. There's always the rivalry with the Steelers. Yeah, Phillies fans are fucking next level.
So, in the Second Age, Sauron comes back.
Yes, he
He
did.
seduces several Manish groups, not in a gay way though, uh, including the Varegs of Khand.
Yes,
He
he does.
constructs
What he does
Barad-dûr.
is he teaches them he teaches them some smithing lore, if I recall correctly. He helps them out, and in exchange, he demands them to help him later down the line. Sauron's always been a master of long-term planning. To give you an idea, the entire rings gambit he did, that was a scheme that he waited centuries for. Hundreds of years he worked with Celebrimbor to smith the rings, which actually I kind of jumped ahead of the gun.
So he then becomes the Lord of the Gifts, builds those rings,
He put on a terrible wig, as the Rings of Power have shown us.
and of course only the woman was suspicious of such awesome gifts.
It's more because she was the only one to realize to some level that if he was a Valar emissary, that what he's doing doesn't seem quite right. She did not know he was Sauron, though. She just thought he was sketchy.
Didn't she want to fuck him as well?
In the Rings of Power, they did. Also, if you're wondering why they made him Halbrand in season one, it's probably because they didn't have the rights to Anatar. They had to actually go to the Tolkien estate to get the rights for it. Isn't contract law funny? It's
Yeah.
it's the same reason Star Trek Discovery had to make the ship designs 25% different. It's also the same reason why in Star Wars C-3PO had a red arm, specifically so that they could get full rights to his merchandise rather than giving some of it to George Lucas. I'm not even kidding. That's why they did the red arm. It was also so they could make another action figure variant of him.
Fucking Disney.
It's also why you
They,
probably will not see a digital copy of the original theatrical cut of the OT until Lucas is dead. Probably because that was mandated in the buyout. Because Disney would have happily sold the theatrical to get some money on the quick.
I mean, I would
Otherwise,
have, I would have bought it, completely being hypocritical to my desire to see Disney go down in the dumpster. But hell yeah, that would make money.
but yeah, for almost 400 years, Sauron basically pretends to be a swell guy who teaches them the art of ring lore. And the reason this works so well, and the reason Celebrimbor falls for it, is because this is another metaphysical thing. Elves are not perfectly bonded to their bodies. So in the creation of the world, in the creation of Arda, the elves call the entire world Arda Mard, because there's a bit of an imbalance caused by Melkor's discord and the wars that happened before the elves woke up. It did enough damage that things aren't quite physically perfect for them. They are bound to Arda by spirit, but their bodies slowly decay with time. It's not that they grow old, they grow sick, tired, and, well, feel thin. Eventually their bodies fade, unless they go to the Undying Lands, which are closer to what Arda should be, because of
Mm.
the Valar's presence.
But then he built up
So what
the
happens is Celebrimbor wanted, because the elves do love Middle Earth. They loved Middle Earth. They wanted to stay there. But eventually they were destined to fade or go west. This was Celebrimbor's attempt, and this is actually how he falls, to try to stop that. The rings were not to rule anything, it was to allow them to stay there. It was a stasis, preservation.
a- and when Sauron completes the One Ring, Celebrimbor, like the beta he is, didn't want to help Sauron create the perfect world,
Oh, here's the
the
other thing.
ordered
The
world.
other rings, so it started with the lesser rings as they were kind of working on making the rings out of magic. All the great rings of power were supposed to originally go to the elves. What happens, though, is Sauron makes his master ring to try to dominate their minds, but he did not realize that the elven lords, because Celebrimbor made 3 rings in secret, not out of suspicion. I think he was originally going to give one of them to Sauron as a gift. But since they had their rings on, they noticed what the fuck happened, took them off, and basically the whole scheme went up in smoke. That's why he destroyed Eregion. Just to let you know. Also,
Yeah.
in uh, in Rings of Power, Celebrimbor dies saying, "You'll always be a slave to the rings, Sauron," and Sauron cries as he shoots him with a bow that kills him. He's like completely filled with arrows, and that one kills him. And that's not bad, but it's not as brutal as the death he got in the books, where they raised his burned, broken body as a battle standard over the walls of Eregion to demoralize the armies of Lindon, which was under the command of Elrond at the time. Yeah, Elrond got to see Celebrimbor's broken, partially burned, and badly tortured corpse on a battle pole. Just to make a
Mm.
point.
So Sauron then fights that whole War of the Ring thing that's in like the first 5 minutes of the the first movie, I think.
No, that's the Last Alliance. That's the Last Alliance with Men and Elves. That's about 1300, not 1300, 1800 years in the future. Not 18, a thousand and a half years in the future.
But overall, he corrupts some things, corrupts some men, elves, dwarves. There's a war that's fought, and the Numenorians fall. Listen, as much as I don't like reading, there's a whole book that you can read on this. It's called, I believe, the Appendix.
In particular, if we're talking about the fall of Numenor, it is known as Akabaleth, or essentially Atlantis. It's the Atlantis myth, or the Noachian flood. Basically, in short, Sauron gets his ass absolutely fucking destroyed by the Numenorians, who by this point have become arrogant imperialists. He manages to essentially wheedle his way from prison to becoming the chief advisor of the king, Ar-Pharazôn. And at its worst, he basically got the Numenorians to not just renounce the Valar, but also want to take over the West. And on top of that, created a religion centered around Morgoth that culminated in human sacrifices.
Cool.
What happens is then King Pharazôn actually goes west with a huge fleet so big, the Valar, the great angel, said, "Oh fuck, we can't deal with that." They actually were scared. So what happens is the chief of them, Manwë, begs God, "Yo, God, can you do something about this punk?" And God looked at him and said, "Okay." And he made the world go from flat, because originally the world was flat, to a sphere.
Wait, they were right?
Originally, Arda was a flat planet. Yeah, with a firmament and everything. Eru forced the world into a sphere, crushed the entire fleet under a shitload of rocks and water, and they will not ever be freed until the apocalypse happens, and Numenor goes right the fuck under the water. Not even kidding. Numenor was so scary that the angels had to beg God to destroy them, and he did.
Oh, score code. You got a theater reel of the original movie of Star Wars? That's awesome.
Sorry,
That
trust me,
actually
bro.
is.
This bling will get you all the ladies. Yeah, I mean, oh, that's
Oh,
another thing. This is just a cool lore fact. Gold is actually slightly corrupt. The element of gold legitimately is slightly corruptive. That's why large amounts of it can actually drive you crazy. That's where the
but I've
dragon
been told.
sickness comes from.
Wait, but I've been told to buy gold from a lot of those people on a lot of those channels. Am I being poisoned?
You might be. You might be. They might be agents of Sauron. You gotta make sure. You gotta check their downstairs. If they're circumcised, they're orc descended. Then you gotta run them over with your car because they glow in the dark.
I'm just now imagining Ben Shapiro as an orc.
I can see it. I can see him doing that.
But on to the third age.
Looks like gefilte fish is back on the menu, lads.
L'chaim!
Yeah, the third age. So the thing we kind of skipped was the time Sauron got his fingies cut off. Well, one of them, and then he exploded. He kind of does that when you lose the ring.
But he comes back as the necromancer.
He also poisons. Originally, the huge forest is called the Greenwood the Great. It becomes Mirkwood. That's where Orlando Bloom comes from.
Then he brings back the Witch King,
There's a lot of
Camul, and
stuff
all
he
the guys.
does. One of the
Yeah.
coolest things he does is he brings the Witch King, makes him the king of a kingdom called Angmar, and destroys Arnor with it. That's really cool. It's really cool. It really should have been what the television show that they made for should have been, I think. It would have been great. Like, you could have really done some cool shit with there. They didn't. And Sauron did other plans until eventually the War of the Ring happens, and honestly, you could just watch the movies or read the books to learn about those.
And then he dies.
Well, no, he doesn't actually die all the way. He just becomes the least spirit. Like he's still around, but basically in eternal agony and almost less than nothing.
I can't believe how much then they shamed him. This guy, all he was trying to do was make an ordered world, free of all the problems in the world
I mean,
and all
to
the
a lesser
people that
degree,
caused
by
it.
the third age, he kind of got pissed off and just wanted to rule it as a god king.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Because that's the thing about Sauron. Like his original idea was, at least from his point of view, and honestly to a lesser degree, probably was good intentioned. His impatience, though, and desire for dominance and the inability to let others have their own free will is what ultimately undid him. Again, Sauron's fall is not necessarily tragic, but you can understand why it happened, and then absolutely revile the motherfucker for some of the things he has done.
But let's look at his stats then.
Level 180, and this is
360,
without the ring.
360 with the One Ring.
Yeah, to give you an idea, Sauron in the books actually did have a body. He was not just an eye on a tower. He was described as absolutely dreadful to look upon, your entire body filled with fear. And the lidless eye refers to how no matter what, he could just look through you with his eyes. He could just see everything about you and know on an instinctual level what you're like. There is nothing you can hide from if he's looking at you. He also, his blackened hand only has 4 fingers because he lost one of them.
He also has the One Ring,
Yep,
which if you wear it,
they
and
spelled
this
Sauron wrong. Tharon. Whoops. Whoops. Sauron means abhorred. Gorthar means the cruel. Artano, I think that might have actually been one of his names.
but if you have the ring, here's your powers. You're able to see all those who are invisible, see magical forces, drastically slowing the effects of aging,
That's why Gollum became what he was.
and resist permits the wielder controller resist any item made with the ring's help, cannot be destroyed by any other means besides the fires of Orodurin.
It's because of how much will Sauron put. Basically, most of his soul went into it.
But the ring serves to have an times 18 power point multiplier for all realms and professions. You control all the 9 rings. All spells have their range tripled, and you can cast spells at any target you see, even with the aid of a device. Control, command and control over others.
Yeah, basically, the only person who could probably do this is Sauron. There is some thoughts that if, say, Saruman got his hands on the ring, he might have been able to. Might being the key word. Same with Gandalf. Not even Galadriel, if she had it, probably could. And that's just because, for all of her insight and knowledge, at the end of the day, she is still one of the children of Eru. She's not one of the Ainu.
He's immune to the effects of normal weapons.
Yeah. Sauron is not something to fuck with.
Presence. You
By the
must
way,
make a.
the mace is actually canonical. He does have a shadow mace. This was before Jackson, so
Is
I'm
it
kind
plus
of a,
60?
yeah, a plus 60, aka fuck you.
It can also turn invisible, which okay.
Yeah, Sauron is often depicted wielding a cudgel, which is likely because Morgoth himself was well known for using a mace.
Well, then they give us
At least
next
in
up.
most artistic depictions, whenever you see Morgoth fighting Fingolfin, he
Yeah,
is well known for using a mace.
the powers of the Nazgul. They got black breath.
Yeah, that's basically a disease curse that can kill you.
But then we have the 9 Nazgul, and I can already see where the wokeness is coming in. The Witch King is the Black Prince.
Mm-hmm.
They
Uh,
made him an African American.
uh, Black originally did not just refer to skin color. Black also referred to dark hair or dark persuasion, dark personality, a cruel person.
Oh, that was probably just made up.
In this case, the Witch King was called that because very likely it's a combination of his personality. He might have also been black haired, which for Numenorians that's somewhat uncommon. Their hair usually is dark, but it's more of a deep brown, or occasionally yellow, or occasionally blondes. So
But
a black-haired
it,
guy is somewhat notable. It also would definitely refer to his personality.
yeah, he was born during a solar eclipse. His name was Murazur. He was proud, greedy, and ambitious as his father and his brother, yet due to his status as second son, he failed to gain favor.
Yep, because Numenor was a absolute, not what was it? Absolute Salic primogenitor. Basically, women could not traditionally inherit unless there was no other option.
Based.
And even then, they were usually forced to marry cousins.
Based.
Well, not forced, because Tolkien was never a fan of things like rape or coercion. Usually, those sorts of marriages never
Boo.
go well. At least in his works, in the sense that Pharazôn himself forced his queen to marry him, Miriel, who was the daughter of the last king that tried to take Numenor back to the good old days, and they never had issue because of what he did.
Hmm.
Mainly because Miriel refused to ever give it to him.
So, the Black Prince sets up in Londr, in Eredor.
So Londair was, I believe it was an actual city that Tolkien described. It was one of the many Numenorian cities that eventually got abandoned. Londair, if I recall correctly, is actually on the banks of the Minhir. Is actually located within Minhiriath, which is one of the southern regions of. It's a little south of Arnor. I know that means nothing to you guys on a map, but it's basically south of the Shire, but north of Isengard.
And he built up,
Well, no, south of the Shire, north of
yeah,
Isengard. Yeah, I think I said that. Sorry.
so he built up that region, and then when he was told to basically pay taxes, he refused.
Well, yeah.
And so because of this, Sauron gave him the ring.
You know, when I
Because
think
as
of the
we,
Witch King, this is probably not the best way to describe his backstory, because he's basically just trying
I
to avoid the
listen,
IRS.
yeah, I don't see how. Well, then I gotta say here, I don't see how Sauron's a bad guy. This is the thing with all woke propaganda. The bad guys are always the good guys. How can you tell me that this guy who wants order and hates the IRS is a villain? And he's giving gifts. He's giving rings of immortality. How is that bad?
Also, if I recall correctly, Atanamir, they're actually going with the long thought hypothesis that he is the younger brother of one of the kings of Numenor.
Hmm. But then he became first of the Nazgul, the
Well, the
Witch King.
greatest of them, because he is the because he, if you're wondering, the reason the kings of Numenor are the kings of Numenor, um, they legitimately have on some level some divine blood within them. Part of their ancestry is legitimately angelic. They're descended from the Maya or angel Melian. They also have elvish blood within them. In fact, actually, the first king of Numenor is Elrond's brother. He chose to be a man because the half elves were given the opportunity to pick whether or not they would take the gift of men or the life of an elf. Elrond wanted to be an elf. Elros, his brother, chose to be a man.
Hmm,
So technically, if you think about it, Aragorn's porking his great 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 aunt.
based. So, the
But
Witch King survives into the Third Age.
also
Is
during the Second
yeah,
Age, they kind of give him like things to do since he's known to have like the Nazgul were known to rise during the Second Age. They were important, but like their deeds were not really covered. In this case, the Witch King's big role, along with the other ones, because there were three Numenorian Nazguls, were to help further corrupt Numenor as part of Sauron's 8D chess 1,000-year long shot plan.
And I don't see how you again immortality. Who's against that?
I mean,
Who in the setting? Who in
eventually
the
you
settings
feel.
against immortality for mortal people?
I don't feel old. I don't look old, Gandalf, but I feel it. I feel thin, as if I'm too much butter spread. Too little butter spread over too much bread.
Yeah, but they're
I'm
hobbits. They're just a
tired.
bunch of woke hippies.
They're actually like
They
the
don't.
example of the English countryman.
Yeah, and look what happened to England.
They like bland food. They do not like foreigners, and they just like to have a content life. Sauron, make Numenor great again. Oh God, Rings of Power actually has a moment where they have a guy like ranting to a crowd, going, "Elf workers are taking our jobs. They don't tire. They don't age." And you have people legitimately screaming about elves. It's fucking.
Who likes elves anyway? But
But yeah, the Witch King's
right,
things there, and then in the Third Age he became Angmar. I kind of summarized it. He eventually
yeah.
destroys Arnor. He gets his ass whooped by an elf called Glorfindel, runs away. He kills the last king of Gondor before Aragorn. And he was prophesied that no man may kill him, so he eventually gets murdered by Durnhelm, who was actually the name of Eowyn when she was disguised as a man.
See, I told you it's a man. Durnhelm.
Fun fact, Eowyn legitimately did that because she was feeling suicidally depressed because Aragorn, she thought Aragorn died and she had a bit of a crush on him and she
Yeah,
didn't want to die. She also would rather be dead than live the life of an old maid.
and look, in an act of extreme bravery, the Hobbit Merry, kind of a girl's name though, rushed
Meriadoc.
forth
It's short for
and
Meriadoc.
kind of a girl's name though, rushed forth and stabbed the Nazgul in the back of his knee. The enchanted nature of Mary's blade broke the spell that held the Witch King's immortal form together. There you go. A man-ish thing killed him.
That's one of my favorite moments actually. Is the prophecy said no man may kill him, and then a hobbit and a woman kills him.
No, a hobbit and a man. Where does it say a woman killed him? It says Durnhelm.
With the last of her strength, the niece of Theoden King drove her sword through his neck.
That's gotta be a misprint. I haven't read the books. Listen, it's probably a misprint.
Orfandil. That wasn't his name. The name they gave him was what was fucking Mirazor or whatever.
But let's see. The Witch King's features 6'10",
He
260 pounds,
so
black hair.
Numenorians when they describe how tall they are, we're talking like basketball players. Elendil the Tall was like 7'8".
Hmm.
Numenorians when they say they're tall, they ain't fucking around. The shortest of them are usually still at least 6 feet. No manlets among them.
Next, though, is Camul the Easternling.
Oh, this
He
one's
was
one of my favorites. Not
born
because of his
Camul.
character.
Yeah. He was born Camul. He was the eldest son of Hiniver Muntalin of the Wuma.
I don't know where
Okay, so
Woma
this is
is.
another. Is this another woke thing? He's
So
of the Wuma.
I
Sounds like woman.
I don't know where Woma is in because I need to know what the map is describing. I have no clue where Woma is. I'm
It is the
assuming
most
it's somewhere in
powerful
Rune.
kingdom in East Endor with a line of Avardaran kings.
With a line of what type of. Oh, half elven
Avaradan
kings. So I kind of
possessed,
like that. That's kind of
yeah,
neat.
elven ancestry. They knew wood and word magic. Camul found his own found his losing popularity among
Oh
his
wait,
own
no.
people.
Here's something I don't like from a lore standpoint. Kulmul was known as the Black Easterling for a reason. He was one of the Easterling tribes guys. What these idiots did was they made him part of a tribe that was descended from the same line as the Edain of Numenor. He is from one of the three houses of the men that would eventually become the inhabitants of Numenor.
So
They
he's
have
not an Easterling.
they have
He's
by
a white guy.
accident made him an Edain, which I don't like. He was literally known as the Black Easterling. This is by doing this, you fucked up. Also, if you are wondering, uh, he was raised by the Lord's elven consort. His dad had a stepwife, had a mistress who is an evil elf stepmommy.
My second fetish.
Also, Kamul is kind of a loser. His own rule was losing popularity among his own people. Again, this is the second in command of the Nazgul, and they made him a loser. They kind of made him a loser. The internal stability of Hyonvor's rule was crumbling with many of the Walma lords renouncing their loyalty to the king. Kamul became a desperate man, with his entire kingdom collapsing around him. He turned to the only ally he knew, his evil stepmommy. He met with his stepmother at the Isle of Sunrises, where I don't know where that is. This is stupid. They should have had a
It's the
map.
isle where. Listen, it's the island where the sun rises.
This is one of the worst things about Middle Earth role-playing. They just assume you know where their fanfiction bullshit is.
Listen, it's like having a town called Casino Town. It's a town with casinos.
Where she seduced him with he is literally getting a birthday handy from his evil stepmommy and the offer of
That's where the ring
immortality.
went. Wait. That's where the ring went.
Did Warhammer steal from this, or did this steal from Warhammer? I don't know. That's actually a great hypothesis. They might have made
No. Well,
they might have made
there's no elf stepmother fucking some guy. Now there is the whole thing about Malakath and oh, what's her name? Um,
I don't know.
his mother having a thing.
But what happens is he allies with the Dark Elf Kingdom of Helkanen, and this allowed Kamul to actually get concessions from the Numenorians. The problem I kind of have with this, there's a lot of problems. Once again, they're kind of making dark elves because that's what the Avari are. There's a bunch of elvish tribes that are called dark elves or Morroquendi. It means they were never illuminated by the wisdom of the Valar. They never saw the light of the two trees. Hence why they are called dark elves. What these idiots have done is accidentally make dark elves, because they're called dark elves, incline more often towards evil, which is not really how they fucking work in the Legendarium. If you are a Tolkien fan, this is horseshit. If you've read the books like I have, if you're a big fan of the works like I am, this is what we call fucking slop. Absolute garbage. And this is the second in command of the fucking Nazgul that they're doing this to. I'm trying to think of an equivalent of what this would. This would be like if they made fuck. Yeah, screw it. This would be like if they made Darth Maul a crybaby bitch. Which, hey, maybe they did. I don't know. Disney Star Wars does a lot of damage.
Wait, hold on. I'm seeing here this is in the Third Age, but he's a Black Ranger.
So, this is a thing because for the longest of time he was called this because he was the commander of Dol Guldur, the Hill of Sorcery, which is in southern Mirkwood. So essentially, as the commander of essentially the northern push to corrupt Middle Earth, he did a lot of rangering. He did a lot of exploration of the woodlands to
Yeah.
essentially build power for Mordor.
Though also look at that fort, Barot Serig.
Oh yeah. This is another reason I wanted to show you guys some of this because the art for this is great. Look at this skull fortress, man. Look at this fucking thing. It
And
looks like something you'd see in He-Man, and I love
let's
it.
see how Chad Kamul was. 6'3", 195, blue eyes, fair skin, long black hair.
I This
Oh,
is
great
this is
blue eyes.
something I straight up fucking hate with what they did with Kamul. He should have been an Easterling.
No, but he's now white, so he's okay.
They
He's been
should have made him an
unwoked.
Easterling. He's literally his title, his other title is literally the Black Easterling.
Mm. But then we have here
And
the
that doesn't
third
mean
guy.
black as in like skin tone. I mean that personality, but he is called the Easterling.
But we have here, though, next the third guy, Dwar of Wa.
Or as I like to call him, Dog of Dog.
Dendra Dwar, the son of Woolman fisherman Dendra Wim, and his mother Obril.
I kind of really fucking hate how their names work. So he was forced to work at the age of 7 and was constantly burdened by the guilt of his mommy's death. He is also a
Pussy.
fisherman.
He's a person of the land.
So I don't know what any of this shit is. Basically, he was like some islander that a bunch of other guys burned down his hometown, and then he like fought them. His daddy died several weeks later during the fight, and his brother vowed to avenge them. He then went to the mainland at Wool. What is Wool? Fuck you, even I don't know. This is confusing horseshit. This is literally one of the dumbest things that Middle-earth role-playing does, is they assume you know this shit.
Of course, the Dwar of Wool. It's near the War of Dwal.
So the reason I call him Dog 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 is you'll see. They were known for their warlike ways, and what happened is he gained a reputation as a very good warrior and tracker. He particularly was known to train and work with warhounds.
And he became known as the Lord of Dogs.
Yeah, you thought I was
Assault,
fucking with
yeah,
you?
assaulting the city of Alakwa and wresting a troll from the Kapur control. He took it over, and be, and Wa became the Isle of Dogs under the iron fist of the Dog King.
Yeah. I don't know what any of that
Who let
means.
the dogs out?
I don't know what any of that means. All I know is bark, 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 arf.
Yep. Then he vanished. His age-long desire for vengeance turned to greed and hatred, and getting a ring from Sauron.
Yeah, apparently, even though he absolutely destroyed the tribe that killed everyone he knew and loved, he was still the big mad, and Sauron's like, yo, here's a ring, that'll help
And
you.
he remained at Barad-dûr. He would then come back, I believe, in the Third Age, uh, to uh, continue his title as
All
the
I
absolute
hear
ruler
is,
of
this is
Wa.
Bingus, son of Dingus, ruler of Ming. Yeah, yeah, this is complete and absolute confusing horse shit. I don't
He
like any
tried to
of it.
he tried to combat the Blue Wizards, but failed.
See, I don't like Dwar of Wall. This is actually, I think, one of the worst written ones. But the thing is, how he is handled outside of his fucking awful backstory, there's something that's a bit appealing to me. And this is because he is the commander of the werewolves and wargs. This Nazgul specializes in tracking, hunting, and using dogs to murder you. Well, wolves.
He can control dogs, any number of dogs whose levels total no more than 39 and who remain within 2,000 feet. He can also control additional dogs within 1,000 feet by concentrating.
Oh yeah, he can also mind control dogs. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a predecessor of the Space Wolves. I think honestly, if you took Dwar of War and made him like a Chaos Space Marine, that's a rogue Space Wolf, I think it would work really well.
But next up is another guy who has a Warhammerish name, Inder Dawndeath.
Great name, but if I remember right, this guy is a fucking loser, and we're going to go through this.
He was an heir to the richest family in the Kieran Republic of Corridane.
Oh yeah, he wasn't a king. He was the son of some rich merchants in a republic.
He vied for control to combat the spreading influence of Numenor.
By the way, have you noticed yet that all of these people were not necessarily good people before Sauron gave them the rings?
No, no, these guys. You have a guy who sets up his own empire, his own business, you have another guy who's trying to retain control amidst, a democratic coup, another guy who's a dog friend, and this guy who's a businessman. None of these guys I see are evil.
Oh no, you're gonna find out that indoor Dawn Death is actually has a lot more in common with Trump than you think.
Oh, then yeah, yeah, not evil at all. No. He
You'll
has a
see.
council of oligarchs who elected the young governor king of Corlin. There you go, he was a king.
Yeah, technically, you'll see.
Then the magician arrived in the Dunedain, controlled Tanturk, because they made it the king to support their king in dooming the rebel cause.
The magician being Sauron.
Yep. Oh, let's see. So again, more riots. This is just showing the failure of democracy and how we need to go back to an absolute monarchy controlled by somebody that I like.
By the way, the move of making himself king, completely unpopular. And the dude literally spent his entire reign fighting rebellion after rebellion and civil war after civil war.
If only they could just listen to the right people, the
And then
people
he
I like, the
and
people
then
I
he
consider
goes to
smart.
war, and the war was not popular at all. You can see why I consider this guy a fucking loser. You'll see. So what
So then,
happens is eventually the governor, one of his governors, stands before a crowd and says, "You are the big gay," and the people applauded him for this. They
then he
applauded
flees.
him and then
Yeah,
revolted.
he flees to Mumakan, takes over Mumakan,
Oh no, he doesn't take it over. He's just hiding. He's just being a loser. He's a landless, jobless loser when Sauron takes pity on him and gives him a ring.
so Sauron's helping the downtrodden. I don't see how this is bad.
This is supposed to be one of the 9 great kings of men. This dude is a fucking
He was.
loser
He turned a decadent republic into a based monarchy.
and had civil wars every fucking year until he
Well,
lost.
that's because they didn't shut up and just do what the king said. It's not his fault.
See, this is one of the reasons I really wanted to show this. So what's your
And look,
thoughts?
and look. In the third age, she was able to bring the Mumak riders under his sway and establish the kingdom.
Yeah, his pity kingdom that Sauron gave him. Like the
But it's
fucking
got the
loser
but
he
it's got the
is.
elephants.
Yeah, that's cool. You know what would have been better is if he just like ruled the Elephant Kingdom and then this happened. They made this guy a fucking loser.
He then was able to, I guess,
By the way, you're not gonna like him
connect.
anyway
Yeah,
because well, you'll
yeah, he
see when we
connected with
read
the
his
Elven
features.
court. Um,
Oh yeah, there's an Elven Kingdom far to the south that's ruled by a crazy dark elf lady. That's
but
probably
then
Ardor.
then he takes back Coronade over 7 years and takes the name Inder Dawndeath and then rules his kingdom. He then comes back to Mordor to fight alongside the Nazgul. He
Yeah,
got his kingdom.
yeah. After losing millions of times in a row, and he had to have a pity help with Sauron
Listen, he rules his kingdom 4 different times. FDR ruled his country 4 different times, and we don't consider that
consecutively.
bad.
Consecutively. This guy, every time he takes command of anything, it melts into shit and he gets thrown out to the applause and mockery of everyone, even when he's a fucking Nazgul. This dude has an aura of dread and he still couldn't fucking win. By the way, you're not
Eh,
gonna
what?
like him anyway because he's black.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
really?
dark skin, black eyes.
Oh, and black eyes? Oh, that's. I'm not a racist, but come on. Really? He's one of the 9 kings and is in a republic?
By the way, there is a far superior Southron king in Divide and Conquer's lore. Divide and Conquer being a really good mod that improves Third Age Total War, which is a mod for Medieval 2. And that guy's name is Balak Sunfire. And unlike this complete fucking loser, he actually does something awesome. He manages to unify the Haradrim and basically forms a sort of equivalent to Alexander the Great. in that he damn near actually threatened Gondor. He damn near threatened Numenor, or was it Gondor? It's one of the two, and went mad with power. Yes, his kingdom collapses too, but that's only after the ring drives up his cruelty and desire to dominate. Well, you didn't. What, you didn't like the dog man? You didn't like the dog man, Jimmy? You
Yeah, then
you
we,
you didn't like a mole who wanted to fuck his stepmommy?
but then next we have a Korikil, or a Korihil.
I remember this guy being okay.
He obtained a license to establish and administer a colony for the
Also, he was spoiled
Numenorians.
rotten, just to let you know.
And a young and ambitious man, he yearned for more. Learned much in his studies, still had a
Also,
thirst
if
for
you're
power.
wondering, Hjarn, I know where that is. That's like really far to the south. It's like really far to the south. I don't know if it's the little continent on the side of Endor, or if it's like a city that's like really close to that.
But he then continued to expand his realm, again, like any sort of ambitious person would, including Chenechata, Isra, Kemisrela, Harshandat.
So some cool things about this guy. First of all, this man managed to essentially create for the Numenorians the equivalent of the East India Trading Company under himself. Number two, this dude is such a fucking Chad. The title for king is his own name. And then third off, the dude basically out of absolute hedonism and boredom said, "You know what? I'm bored. Let's learn how to use black magic."
Incredible. Entrepreneurial.
This guy is actually cool. See,
He then made,
he's not a loser like
listen,
Endor.
he signed his soul away to the Master of Darkness. He made a contract. Okay, he wasn't given a gift. He made a deal. The best deal. The biggest deal.
He made a deal with a basically he made a deal with a voodoo witch doctor. He gave him his eyes in exchange for being able to see basically astrally and have amazingly powerful magic.
And then he sold his soul away and became immortal.
Yep.
I don't see a downside to this deal.
See, I wanted to show you that there were cool fan fiction interpretations of the Nazgul, and Akora Hill is one of them.
And then he
His
comes
title was
back.
the Storm King, by the way.
Nice. Nice. Rip that off straight from Demon Souls.
Actually, I was going to make the joke that I think Martin might have ripped it off for his concept of what happened before the conquest by the Targs,
Could be as well.
because there's before Bobby B, the Baratheons took over. There was the line of Durandon, which had the title of Storm King.
But this guy, 6'7",
Yep.
jeweled eyes. But he didn't let his disability threaten him. He didn't need any help from the government on this. He actually could sense things better than a normal-sighted man.
What I also like is out of all of the Nazgul, he actually does not tend to. He does not, unless he's forced to by Sauron to travel. He doesn't wear the black. He's not a black rider by inclination. He prefers white and gray garbs.
Chad does it his own way.
Yeah, like
But
I
then we
said,
have
I like Akora Hill.
Hormarath of Dur. His mother was the great matriarch of the Urdu until she died in the Umil Wars.
Oh, okay. So this one I
Her-
only know because I actually read the Ferodwaith book. This is a lot of fan fiction. Basically, Ferodwaith is the far north is this icy shithole, and it got that way because basically the evil of Morgoth was so bad that the north froze over from his evil, and it has permanently affected the climate up there.
But this guy, he works with the Var Elves to take over a clearly feminist-controlled government.
Basically, he was very pissy at the matriarchal society he was born in and said, "Fuck that."
He was removing the wokeness.
You could argue that he was. I will say that there is a negative quality that making all the Nazguls kind of assholes before then does ruin the effect of the corruption of Sauron.
Well, listen, he's not going to give it to any do-gooder. Anyone who just toes the line and just follows what the NPCs tell him to do.
I mean, that was
No, he needs
legitimately
someone
what his
who's,
plan with the Rings of Power was originally.
yeah, to get people under his control.
Yep.
But this is for a good thing, so it's okay.
Like I said, Dwarf Wall, by the way, his backstory's ass, but if you like refluffed it a
Yeah.
bit, he's fine. I Him as a Nazgul is cool. His backstory's ass.
He is the Ice King.
I'm just envisioning though the very
He's a
cursed. No.
he's
Think
a
about this cursed
bit.
image. Okay, imagine Kamul. Like he has his helmet off. He's a ghost. Like there's like no visible head, and he's French kissing his stepmommy before he goes off to war for Sauron. Like that's what
Oh
happens
man, that
before he puts on the hood to chase the hobbits. And it's like the worst mental image I ever have. Just because it's so what the fuck? Why did you do that to Kamul?
listen. This, I mean, I will agree. Yeah, this is Lord of the Rings. Nothing in Lord of the Rings ever talks about sex or love. Doesn't exist in this setting.
I mean, there's the Lay of Baron and Luthien where a dude legitimately said, "Okay, what can I do to fuck your daughter?" And then the Elf King Thingol is like, "Get me a Silmaril." I bet. And he walks out, goes on a big mad quest to get the Silmaril to marry the girl he loves, loses a hand in the process. I think he died a little bit, but he came back. Don't worry. But he did it.
Again, I haven't read the books, so I don't know what you're talking about.
That's fine.
But unfortunately, Hormat, despite being a base Chad, he's a manlet at 6'1".
No, he's just pretty tall for the because the people up north are actually usually pretty short. He's quite tall.
Still a manlet.
By the way, he's also a loser because he got exiled.
And now we come to the
Oh no,
worst,
he
though.
actually was able to win. Oh
I
yeah,
as
oh
much
yeah. Oh, the
yeah,
other thing about the Urdar, I actually remember this. The Urdar are like the evil faction in the north that they came up with because they're
hmm,
still patriarchal. He actually left that much of an effect on his people.
permanent baseness.
I mean, to give you an idea, the dude is
Return.
badass enough to have robes that were made from the skin of a cold drake that he killed.
Cool. Cool. But
Yeah,
now
Hormarath is fine.
we have to go up to the woman, Adunafel the Quiet,
So, fun fact, I
as she
believe.
should be as a woman.
So, before we get into her, so some fun facts about this character. This character, at least to those who played Middle Earth role playing, was a little bit controversial specifically because of the statement that 9 rings were given to the kings of men. The logic for making her a female Nazgul was that Galadriel had one of the 3 elvish rings, so it's not necessarily unreasonable, but it was
But
very
it's
likely intended that all of them were supposed to be kings, as in men. So what happened was, I believe it was either in second edition or the last edition before they canceled, they retconned Adunafel into Adunabel, the Roth, and made Adunafel a man.
r- r- correcting their mistakes. I like it. I like it. But let's see how they ruin this, though.
So she is the sole female member of the Nazgul, and the reason her fall into the darkness happens is her father had her when he was old, and he died when she was just a child, and that fucked her up.
Oh,
Basically, she was horrified by the way he died.
but also saying that she was beautiful to become the center of legends. They're already making her a Mary Sue.
Well, I mean, a lot of women characters in Tolkien were described that way. Galadriel, Beruthiel, Luthien,
He couldn't give us any
Arwen.
actually strong female characters. He had to give us strong female characters. I can't believe this guy Tolkien would write like this. What is he from current year?
But yeah, Adunafel was kind of fucked up by the death of her dad, and she kind of got bitter at the elves specifically because she came to believe that the elves were withholding the secret of their immortality.
They
She
probably were.
she eventually became an acolyte of Murazor, who you would remember as the Witch King. Basically, because her father died, she went with her uncle, who was a big supporter, and she basically went from there. She willingly got rid of her Elvish name because originally Numenorians had their Elvish name and then an Adonaic, which is their native language name. She willingly forsook hers and decided to go off on her own. And she managed to actually build pretty much not it's not Umbar, but she built one of the greater cities that Umbar at its peak used to control.
And then when they came back to ask her to pay
You
taxes, she
also,
refused.
well, no, you might also like her because specifically, well, one of the first things she did when she established her city was beat the shit out of the Haradrim, which are usually brown, and fucking enslave them.
Okay, so she's one of the people that not I, sorry, my kind of people would consider okay.
Morgoth, the name that makes you want to prepare to meet your maker. Morgoth literally means in Elvish the Great Foe. His original name, Melkor, meant the Strong One because he was the greatest of all of the angels, most alike in
You know,
mind
with a
to his
name like that,
creator.
why go against him?
Because he wanted. Here's the other thing: Morgoth originally just wanted to create like his dad. He wanted to create like Eru. He couldn't because he had full knowledge of not everything, but like he had a little bit of knowledge from each of the spheres that his father could see, and it drove him fucking nuts that he didn't have the full control. He
Why
wanted to
didn't his
basically outdo his dad out of arrogance, was beat the fuck down and got so bitter he was like, you know what? I'm crashing this planet into nothing. I'm gonna take this shit down. He went full nihilist.
listen, when society isn't going your way, burn it to the ground.
Not even kidding. That's the big difference between Super Mega Satan and normal Satan. Super Mega Satan wanted to drag the world to nothing. Normal Satan just wanted to rule over it.
Listen, he can then make it great again.
That was his idea. That was his idea. By the way, he dies like a bitch in the apocalypse because some guy named Turmbar with a sword just fucking cuts his head off.
Hmm. But so she retakes, takes Umbar from the Dunedain, establishes a new kingdom, um, returns
Also
basic.
on top of that, she is an excellent spy mistress. In fact, her main job among the Nazgul was she was the information gatherer originally.
Hmm.
She was also known as the Silent specifically because she used to be well known for her musical performances. She very much loved to play the lute. She was musically inclined. After the ring, though, she never played it again.
Yeah, she was a bard. But of course, yeah, who needs to be focusing on music when you can actually just do shit?
By the way, her slaves eventually started calling her the Once Vain.
Hmm. Our next one though is Ren the Unclean,
Oh no,
and I can
there's a little
see.
bit more, but
uh,
basically, yeah, she's a bard. Her main thing is info gathering. I will actually say, funnily enough, she's one of the better written characters.
Yeah. I can see though again with Ren the Unclean, they're stealing from Star Wars,
Oh,
and
Ren
not
the
even the good
Unclean.
ones.
This is the ugly bastard Nazgul.
He was an illusion, son of an illusion weaver and a nephew of a Shay Lord.
Oh,
Lived in the
you're
mountains
asking
with his.
about Morgoth, Jimmy? So Morgoth is fated to, at the end of the world, get his head fucking cut off by Turin Turambar as the final vengeance of the sons of Hurin, essentially. Sorry.
Yeah. So Ren suffered from delusions and saw himself superior to the other men.
So what
He spoke
happened
himself
was
of
he
as the
suffered
Fire King,
meningitis. Well, what happened was he suffered meningitis and went crazy like Caligula.
and Caligula was a based emperor. I've seen the movie. He does a lot of cool things. Has
Yeah,
sex with a lot of women.
his sense of sanity is non-existent. He wanders around towards volcanoes and it basically made, unlike the other Nazgul, he didn't become a temporal king. He declared himself the high priest of like some fucking fire king.
He is the Fire King.
Yeah, he's crazy.
And then he was offered a ring of power. You see, Sauron could actually see that, yeah, he was the Fire King. He's not going to give it to anyone who doesn't think he's not a king.
All because of the meningitis.
Then he comes back and Yeah, same thing.
Now this guy's a manlet. He is the shortest of the Nazgul.
5'10". 5'10".
He also
And
had reddish
distinctly
brown skin.
ugly.
Oh yeah, he also was ugly. That's why I call him the ugly bastard.
Yeah. Only Uvav of Khan was more savage.
He's basically Genghis Khan.
And that's who's actually up next. Son of an exiled prince of Eastern Khan, experienced nomadic lifestyle through his early years. He was living on the land, touching grass. Began writing at a far young age. The most varings killed a man in the month before his 7th birthday. By 18th, he led a wing of light cavalry in his father's rebel army. However, when his father perished, the horseman was ordered executed.
Basically, this
Ubov,
is legitimately the story of Chinggis Khan.
yeah,
Uvatha the Horseman is legitimately Chinggis Khan, and
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
he fled though, because again, it's your father that failed, not you. Why die for that bitch?
By the
He
way,
over.
Uvatha the Horseman was such an interesting character that even Divide and Conquer kept a character similar to him. Not the same guy, but basically a similar concept.
I think even I think even Games Workshop had a Condish looking like Nazgul,
They should. I mean, it's a genuinely good idea, and Kand was one of the more reliable client states of Mordor.
and for the next 1200 years, he ruled the Varings unquestioningly.
Sauron was really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it,
No, 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 no. He got pure Chads.
oh
He
no, no,
got
no, think about it. You got
rulers, guys who, through sheer strength of will, made themselves into a king, guys who overthrew republics, guys who fucked bitches, especially stepmommies, and you know what? A goddamn Mongol. And a woman.
like in order. Witch King, he's fine. He actually did a lot. They did not really ruin his character too much. I think they did an okay job with him. You're always going to struggle with making him. You had Kamul, which is the biggest molestation of lore I've ever fucking seen, and it's almost amazing. There's something suitably cursed about him having like a fucking romantic relationship with his stepmommy. There's just something amazing about that. You had Dog of Dog Island. Cool concept. Awful backstory. You had the Eternal Loser, who fucking who fucking was given his crown out of pity by Sauron. Fuck him. You had a Korahil, who was really cool. He gave up his eyes to become the Storm King. That's really cool. You had a Dunafel, who honestly I think she's one of the better written ones. You know, Mistress of Whispers, able to know things about others because of their bard lore. Spy Mistress. Pretty cool. Crazy, ugly bastard man. And Genghis Khan. When the Nazgul were written high, they were written high. When they were written low, you got Indoor Dawn Death. Or should I say Indoor the Loser, Indoor the Fool. By the way, I love the Legate of the Ulari and the fucking Spiral Concat. That's something they kind of play around with the Numenorians, where they have kind of like a sea-themed thing because they are kings of
Hmm.
the sea. I really like that.
But then we have,
That's the Mouth of Sauron. That's a pretty
yeah,
fun depiction of him.
the Mouth of Sauron. We've
So,
got,
fun fact about the Mouth of Sauron: depending on the interpretation of the character, he might be thousands of years old. Because there's depictions of the mouth like over hundreds of years. And that could be due to necromantic rituals keeping him around, like, black magic. Or because of his service to Sauron, he's like bound to him to the point where he is just a vessel for Sauron to not necessarily speak through, but to enact his will.
wait, was this guy in the movie?
He's the guy with the fucked up mouth that Aragorn cuts the head off.
I don't think he was in the original edition.
Oh no, no, yeah, he was an
Oh,
extended edition. Sorry, I only watched the extended edition.
again, I didn't know. I think I only saw it once. I think it was on like HBO or something.
But yeah, the Mouth of Sauron is his chief diplomat, and he is known for being excessively cruel, but he is also surprisingly smooth with his elocution. When he speaks, you wish to listen at least a little bit.
We have Gothmog, the first of the half trolls.
So Gothmog, the fun fact about Gothmog is, in Lord of the Rings, they never really specified who Gothmog was. It was assumed that he was an orc commander that basically took command if the Witch King was not available. In Lord of the Rings, they made him that. Remember the tumor orc that says the age of man is over?
Yeah.
That guy. That was Gothmog. In this, they made him a half troll. Because again, at the end of the day, he was a commander for the orc armies. Basically, after the Witch King bit it, he had to salvage the situation.
Then we have Selendrig.
I don't know why the trolls live forever. My guess is it's because they're connected to the Ents, which also basically live forever.
This guy was a Selendrig is a student of Celebrimbor.
Oh god, this one. Okay, so I like to call this character not Meglin. So Keledring, Chilling Shiver, which is a fucking terrible name for an elf, but that's fine. Um, so here's my problems with this character. He is not from Eregion. He was born in Gondolin. So what's Gondolin? Remember the glowy sword that Frodo had?
Yeah.
That is a blade that was made in Gondolin. It was the hidden city of the elves, led by not the greatest smith. That still goes to Feanor. One of the greatest kings the elves ever had, a guy by the name of Turgon. They were well known for their smithing. They were well known for their architecture. It was the hidden city known for being beautiful and almost dreamlike in quality. So this guy working for Sauron when his city was destroyed by a dude who basically is gonna do what he's doing is fucking terrible. It is fucking garbage motivation. Also, his legs are broken. Look at that. Look at that, like twisting of his legs. He's like fucked up.
Yeah.
Get your legs fixed, Keledring, and also get a better name. So yeah, he was
But
born
then
in he was born in Gondolin. He somehow survived that.
we got this fish mask guy,
Hey, they even mentioned Meglin. Hell yeah.
the Angulian.
No, let's finish because I want to
Oh.
show you how stupid this elf is. So he does eventually go to Eregion. He becomes one of the smiths. There's a smithing guild, and he essentially kept working with Anatar. And the reason why is because he wanted to follow him. He knew of Keledring's pursuit, and he decided to let him know who the fuck he was. That this guy decided, hey, I was a kid when I saw Gondolin burn under your master. I saw people scream, thousands of people fucking put to the sword. You know, all these fucking dead people. This would be the equivalent of a dude, like a small child that survived the siege of Leningrad. Like a small child surviving the siege of Leningrad, deciding to work with, like, I don't know, the son of a high ranking Nazi official to bring the
Yeah.
Fourth Reich back into power.
Considering there actually were a lot of
No, I mean a person who vividly remembers the famine rations of Leningrad, including the partaking of long pork caused by the siege caused by the Germans.
I'll probably blame the Soviets for it.
I don't know. There's just something intrinsically what the fuck about this character that bothers me. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Angulon who has the fish head.
Yep. Black Numenorian.
So he is not black in skin tone; it is black in personality. Black Numenorians, uh, they can be referred to as the ruling class of Umbar. They are the Kingsmen that survived. Most of them bred into the local population. Some of them did not. They are usually the ruling class of the city-states of the Kingsmen that survived. And some of them willingly did work with Sauron. They were usually his most dreadful of servants. The mouth of Sauron was also assumed to be a Numenorian.
But then next up we have Bolvag. High Priest and Ordiner of the Dark Lord's cult, the Orc Pope.
Yeah, look at the Orc Pope. Doesn't he look great? Do you like his scepter being a human arm bone with a knife?
Yeah.
That's great.
Then we have the Commanders of the Host, Krusnek, Captain of the Moranon, and
So
monitors the unity of
Moronon, for
banished
those
troops.
wondering, is the Black Gate. He is the dude who guards the huge fucking gates.
We've got Bullricker,
Also, Krusnak is also apparently a Black
a
Numenorian
Numenorian.
that's lived a million years.
Bullricker is a black troll.
Yep.
Ton Veknerth,
Also, Udun is the plains. The plain of Udun is one of the most volcanically active regions of Mordor.
and then we have Girthlug, a half trolless
So before we get into
predecessor.
Girthlug, Tonvark
Yeah.
Thor, that's a placeholder character. What happened was, I believe they made the adventure in near Dol Guldur first, and this was the antagonist they cooked for him. Now we can talk about the troll lady.
Yeah, a troll woman. I thought they said there weren't that many troll women.
I mean, there's a few. That's how they can reproduce.
I don't want to hear about that in this setting. That ugh.
I mean, is it better or worse than the time Treebeard cried about how he missed his wife? I miss my wife, Pippin.
Why would you have to miss women?
I miss my wife, Pippin. Spends 8 hours rumbling in Entish. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, and you find out it's just a sappy love letter.
But they're saying organization skills, presence, brutal methods. This is not the qualities of a woman. I should know. All the men that I look up to tell me that's not the qualities of a woman.
I would have comments about that, but I kind of want to just move on. Also, there she is.
She
She's
does
also
have a good
she is surprisingly stacked, honestly.
she does have a good rack.
There's just
And
something about
saving
that makes me laugh.
that to my folder. But then we have our Reddit goal.
They captured a bear shifter. So Bjornings are warriors that can turn into bears. They captured one and basically forced him to snoo a fucking troll.
As
Unprecedented homicidal tendencies. He is more
we
bloodthirsty than even the Nazgul.
we have another uh Oleg and Asgareth. Then finally a werewolf magician, Garahir.
Ah, Garhir. So this is a bit of a love letter to well, there's several great werewolves. The I don't remember if Karkaroth was one. Basically, there's Karkaroth, who eventually became known as the Mad Wolf, who was the wolf that ate Baron's hand. But yeah, werewolves in Lord of the Rings, they are technically demons. They are demons that essentially take the form of wolves. Their lesser spawn are known as wargs. Those weird anime dogs that the orcs ride, yeah, that's like their grandkids.
Then we have finally Shelob. I guess you're right, she is a woman.
Oh, by the way, the character that looks like X-Men's Beast, that is Aradagal, for those wondering.
I thought that was Shelob for a second.
Nope. Shelob, daughter of the dreaded demon Ungoliant. I don't know why they use the name demon, because the term actually is Uleri, which means fell spirit, if I recall correctly. But yeah, Shelob's a character. She and Gollum are best friends. She resembles her children, the giant spiders of Mirkwood and the Ethel Duoth. That is something. You can fight giant spiders in Mordor thanks to this book.
And then finally Gollum.
Also, Shelob is level 50. Have fun. Have fun fighting that.
And finally, we have Gollum.
Yep, he's a store
And-
slash ghoul hobbit.
But then we would go on to talk about Mount Doom, but again, that's not a character,
That's
I
not a
think.
character. I mean, it kind of is because it's a volcano, I guess. But I don't think anyone really cares about us talking about the geological composition of Mount
But,
Doom. I don't think you want to
but
know
again,
about how it's an andesite cone stratovolcano or whatever.
Games Workshop apparently just changed the lore about how Wraithbone is made for Eldar, so I gotta go crank out a 5-minute video on that.
Got to scream about that. Got to scream about how
I think
in
there's
well,
something
what about
about
Space Marine 2 where they had a commanding officer be a Cadian woman?
that's right. Gotta make a video about that. Gotta complain about I think I complained about something about the Super Bowl. I didn't watch it, so I don't know. But I heard there was non-white people in it, so that's
I mean
something I
that's
can make
like the
fun of.
Super Bowl in general. The only difference is who do you want? Who do you like more, Mahomes or Hurts?
The Energy Company.
No, no, that's the Eagles quarterback.
Uh,
What annoys you more?
I stopped watching after they let that guy kneel for the national anthem because
Uh,
this is America and you should be forced to do that.
I mean, Kaepernick's kind of a loser. Let's be honest. He's a complete loser. Uh, as for the Super Bowl, I do not apologize for the Eagles doing essentially what the troll did to that Bjorning and gang raped the Chiefs. They got what they fucking deserved.
Yeah,
You finally got
drop
to
it.
see that without the ref interference,
Yeah,
that Mahomes is good, but he ain't no Brady. He
drop
was
it.
never a Brady.
Dropping the act though. It is interesting though with this book to see essentially because given how these books are written, characters are going to try to kill all these people, and so it's interesting to set up sort of a progression and giving even like the lower level people some stuff like these, the trolls, they pretty impressive characters. Also just laying out sort of
They
the
are also
diversity of
far more
forces you
attainable to
see.
defeat than say the Nazgul. Which good luck. You're probably
They
not
are
going to
s-
win against those.
they are statted though.
You because here's the thing: the only one that really cannot be killed by without prophecy, like, is the Witch King. The other 8 are probably destroyable.
Actually, let me look up the back with the Witch King.
The
Um,
prophecy is very simple. What happens is after Angmar destroys Arnor, the last elements of Arnor, Arthedain, the elves come back to save the remaining survivors of it, along with a Gondorian army. It's mostly the Gondorians that do most of the work. The Witch King
act
crosses blade with Glorfindel, and Glorfindel's a minor character who is most known for being able to beat the shit out of the captain of the Balrogs when they destroyed Gondolin. So the Witch King got his ass handed to him by this fucking elf.
so they do say that fate, because of Glorfindel foretelling that the king would not perish at the hands of a man, uh, he has the special power of fate. Does not say in game terms what that would mean.
What that means is because what happened is Glorfindel died. He died killing a Balrog. He went to the halls of Mandos, which is in the west. Elves do that when they die. They slowly gather a new body. They have to kind of deal with the trauma of the life they lived before they can get better. Glorfindel volunteered to go ahead of the wizards. He did. And because of that, he had a lot more power and insight because he went west. Again, and what happened is he whoops the Witch King's ass. The Witch King runs away. And if I recall correctly, the first chief of the Dunedain went, "Why the fuck didn't you kill him, Glorfindel? You were whooping his ass." And Glorfindel said, "I have seen his future, and his fate is far from over. No man will be able to kill him." Basically, he says, yeah, his future is far, like his doom is far in the future, because that's the thing about prophecies; they happen. Oh, that's a great comment from Ossel Gollum. We write it to our friend pal Shelobs. She likes listening to us talk. And that's the only Gollum line I'll give, or else the Diopsid will kill me. But yeah, what you think of how they handled the Nazgul? There were some real fucking stinkers in there, but I liked several of them.
Again, they are such a blank template that you can create anything for them. The only stipulations are Witch King, Kamul, and I believe 3 of them have to be Numenorians.
Yep. But what was your favorite of the created 7, and what was your least favorite?
Least favorite, honestly, is probably the crazy fire guy.
Ah, you're not a big fan of Mr. I am crazy because I am like Caligula Man.
Yeah,
Don't worry, I've already forgotten his name too. I'm sorry, like his brain just
I, and I would honestly say this Dawn Death might stand on me fair. It's because he's just
Ren
constantly
the
trying
Uncling.
to take over.
You fucking
And
hate Ren the Uncling, but what's your favorite?
yeah, um, the indoor Dawn Death.
Oh wow, you actually like him?
Well, I don't know. It's just kind of funny in that he constantly is trying to keep taking over his city and failing. And every time, the other thing is, I don't think we mentioned this. Every time he takes over a place, he just gives himself the name G Amav, and then it's either the second, the third, or the fourth. It's like you're an immortal. You don't need to do that.
Um, okay, so my least favorite. This is a hard one because while I think it's more destructive on a plot level because the character is pre-established, he is also pre-established. Actually, I have to be honest. I don't think I can give Indoor Dawn Death worst. I think I have to give it to Kamul because on every level they did some really stupid shit. First of all, they had him in an area that they don't explain to you at all. You have to actually dig through MERP to find where the fuck he's from. That's a problem. That is annoying. Problem 2, he is supposed to be an Easterling. He is one of the 3 Numenorian kings, or maybe 4. I mean, technically he's not, but he's an Edain. What the fuck? He's one of the Edain. He is of the same line of the people of Gondor. What the fuck? 3, evil elf stepmommy and the awkward image of Ghost Kamul heavy petting his stepmommy that he knew since he was a child. There is something really intrinsically what the fuck about that. Very strong Malekith vibes. Malakath being a different character.
No, no, use his proper name. His legal name is Malarian.
Strong Malarian energy. What the fuck?
Well, wait,
All in
this is
all,
Age of
Kamul's
Sigmar.
like my
Never
least
mind,
favorite.
never mind. It's Malakath.
That's my worst. Second worst honorable mention goes to Indoor because he is such a fucking loser that I have no idea why Sauron gave him a fucking ring.
Also, I will say this: the name is so not Tolkien-esque. Dawn Death. What the fuck?
Yeah, that
That's
sounds
that's
like.
the kind of edgy. That's the kind of edgy shit I would see in an '80s Star Wars
Oh,
comic.
no, I think I get it because one of the Nazgul commanders, I think, actually had a title not like that, but similar. I think it was like known as the Shadow Lord or something. It was the guy that was bringing the darkness. Basically, it was the Nazgul that was bringing the darkness so the orcs could fight.
Hmm.
That might be what it is, or I might be smoking crack and using GW as a reference again. Um, my favorite out of them, that's a tough one because I would actually either go with a Korahil or a Dunafel. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of a Nazgul Spire Mistress. Akora Hill though is really cool. Sacrificing his eyes for magic and being like one of the greatest of the sorcerers among the Nazgul. That's fucking cool.
That
Also, he
yes,
had a
that's
great
also.
title as the Storm King. It's a hard fight between the two. But yeah, that is the Gorgoroth Splat book. Next week, because of the pact I made, we're probably either going to cover RuneQuest or something else, depending on if Tech can show up.
But if
If,
not, just remember,
if Tech
this is
doesn't
the
show up, we'll probably cover something else.
Because remember, this is one of the wokest RPG books we've ever read, because it dare desecrates the Lord of the Rings, which obviously has never been made for interpretation or adaptation ever. It's always been correct to the source.
Yeah, I mean, come on, think about it. What was made before this? Oh, the Rankin Bass Hobbit movie, the
All the other
Bakshi Lord of the
MERP
Rings
books,
movie, the
the
Return of the
minute
King.
the miniatures that would have first been made by, I forget which company made him.
The Fellowship of the Ring game where you can play Fatty Bulger instead of one of the hobbits as one of the ring companions.
The author being dead and therefore writing no new material.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. But yeah, next week it'll either be it'll either be more Rune Quest or possibly Hero Quest. It really depends. I did make a bargain. We covered Gorgoroth because of that. Either that or something else. I owe Tech a book, and if he's not capable, we'll cook up something. Might be BattleTech, might be something else.
But we will leave you to that. Good
Hmm.
night, all.
Good night.